Hello guys, my name is Shubham Girme. So today our Viva topic is the object relational mapping in Spring. So let's see the details of ORM in the Spring Boot. So it is ORM is nothing but it is the object relational mapping, and it is used to access the data from the database server. So the Spring Boot framework is also support to integrate with the Java objects and Hibernate, as well as Java persistence API, transaction strategies, and its implementations. So the Spring Boot also added some enhancement with the COM layer and are creating the data accessing applications. So let's see the definition of the ORM. So it is nothing but the object relational mapping, which are used to access the data from the database server, and the Spring Boot also the framework that supports to integrate with the Java data objects and Hibernate, as well as the Java translation. So we can leverage the integration support as per our wish. Uh, so let's see about the what is the Spring Boot ORM. So we can develop an application with the minimal with the minimum coding, and we have to read to write with a code data, and we have to write the extra code after and before with the database logic. So which we have to use in that application. So we can use the less number of codes in programs, like the starting the transactions and closing our transactions. So committing the transactions and getting connection from the database server. So while developing our applications, it's easy to test our applications as composed to the other technologies. So it provides its own API for exception handling with the ORM framework. So we can say that it handles lateral exception compared to the other technologies. So to develop an application, we need to add a Spring context and the Spring.com dependency file in our applications, and we also need to the driver of the GDBase dependencies to access the database server. So to develop the applications, we are using the annotation of JPA and Mapbin class. So as we know about that inheritance to provide in the implementation of JPA. So let's see the object relational mapping in the is also part of the ORM. The mapping of the Java objects to database tables and vice versa. So it's also called as the object relational mapping. So the ORM mapping works as a bridge between the relational mapping database and the tables and the records, and like the Java applications, and the Java application contains the classes and objects. So in the ORM layer, it is an adapter layer, and it adapts the language of the object graphs and the language of SQL and the relational tables. The ORM layer exists between the applications and the database. So it converts the Java classes and objects so that they can be stored and managed in the relational database. So by default, the name that persists become of the name of the table, and the fields become as the columns, and once an application step, so each table row corresponding to an object. So let's see the Spring Boot ORM. So it adds the significant support by using the layer of the object relational mapping as per our the choice to implement the access and the applications of the data. So it wraps the exception as per the tool, the choice of the object relational mapping. So we can also convert the execution of the properties to runtime hierarchy of the data access applications, right, data access exceptions. So we can also handle the exception anywhere in code. So where we need to them. So as we know, the JDBC exception is handled in the same hierarchy. So it handles the location and the configuration of Hibernate and also the instances of the session factory. Uh, so let's see the transactions semantics. It is handled by the transactions handling in some cases of exception handling. Uh, haven't to is taken care of. So by developing the project, we are using the JPA standard annotation in our model bin class. So Spring with the ORM frameworks. These are the multiple advantages of using the Spring. So both of the ORM framework are also the follows. There are having some advantages that the less coding, the exception handling, and we can get the last applications easily. So the transaction management. So let's say to use the framework, so we need to set up the Spring boot and to connect using the form Maven and the Java-based configuration of the project. So it is basically used to create for the Spring Boot application as to run faster. So this is achieved by using the auto configuration and starter of the various types of functionalities. So the third one is that to develop an application using the .com framework using the Spring Boot, and it configures the default. So the JPA provides as Hibernate, and also it contains the transactions management, which is used to integrate with we can say that as like that we can wrap the code and the code of mapping with the wrapper class template. So let's say the conclusion of our today's video topic, that is the Spring Boot that provides me the API to integrate with the both ORM frameworks like the Java Persistence API and the Java Classes Objects, so JDO, and Hibernate. So it also allows to handle the exceptions which is non-recoverable, and it is also throwing as an exception from the exception declaration. So that's all about the oral information about the object relational mapping in Java. Thank you guys.